Merhabalar. SETA Vakfı'na hoş geldiniz. Son günlerde en fazla tartıştığımız konulardan bir tanesi Irak. Türk dış politikasında böyle anlar vardır. Önce birden Suriye gündeme gelir. Ardından çok kısa sürede gündem değişir. İşte Irak'a gideriz. Rusya krizi başlar. İsrail arada kendini gündeme sokmaya çalışır. Biz böyle gideriz geliriz fakat özellikle şu son belki 10 sene zarfında dış politikanın içeride tartışılırlığı da fazlasıyla arttı. İnsanların dış politikaya ilgisi de fazlasıyla arttı. Bu son günlerde yaşadığımız Irak meselesi de e, işte bir taraftan bir dış politika konusu olmakla birlikte diğer taraftan içeride de çok kuvvetli yankıları olan bir konuya dönüştü. Ben bugün bu son Irak tartışmalarını özellikle Başika merkezli Irak'taki Türk askerinin varlığı üzerinden yürütülen ve özellikle Irak merkezi hükümetinin belki biraz sonra konuşacağımız sebeplerden dolayı biraz daha abarttığı bu Irak krizini çok farklı boyutlarıyla burada panelde bulunan değerli konuşmacılar üzerinden tartışacağız. 4 tane gördüğünüz gibi panelistimiz var ve hepsi tabii kendi söyleyeceklerini bu süreçte söyleyecekler fakat hepsinin fokuslanacağı, odaklanacağı konular olacak veya noktalar olacak ki krizi farklı boyutlarıyla ele alabilelim. İlk Irak ve Türkiye üzerinden yani Irak ve Bağdat merkezi hükümeti üzerinden bu son tartışmayı konuşmaya başlayacağız. Mesut Özcan bize Türkiye açısından krizin ne anlama geldiğini, Bilgay Duman ise Orsam'dan Irak açısından özellikle Irak iç siyaseti açısından krizin ne anlama geldiğini anlatacak. Mesut Özcan ise daha çok Türkiye'nin krize nasıl yanaştığını, bu arada Diplomasi Akademisi Başkanı, Dışişleri Bakanlığı, Diplomasi Akademisi Başkanı Mesut Özcan da Türkiye açısından krizin ne anlama geldiğini ve Türkiye'nin bu krize nasıl yaklaştığını anlatacak. Daha sonra biraz daha ayrıntıya gireceğiz. İlnur Çevik, gazeteci, bilmiyorum hangi şapkanızı burada kullanmalıyım. Daily Sabah desem olabilir belki. Gazeteci İlnur Çevik daha çok Kuzey Irak merkezli olarak tartışmayı bize yansıtmaya, anlatmaya çalışacak. Ve son olarak Can Acun SETA'dan bu son Irak krizine biraz da DAEŞ perspektifinden veya Irak'ta mevcut bulunan işte Şii milisler üzerinden tartışmayı değerlendirmeye çalışacak. Şöyle bir 15 dakika geç başladık. Kusura bakmayın bunun için. Ben onun için fazla vakit kaybetmeden ilk konuşmacımıza söz vermek istiyorum. İlk konuşmacımız Orsam'dan Bilgay Duman. Bilgay, yaklaşık 15 dakikan var.
Teşekkür ediyorum. Ufuk'un söylediği gibi ben de Irak iç politikası açısından biraz olsun krizi anlatmaya çalışacağım sizlere. Öncelikle Irak iç politikasındaki krizin ve Türkiye ile ilişkilere yansımasını değerlendirmeden önce Irak iç politikasındaki gelişmeleri bir tanımlamak gerekiyor. IŞİD'in Irak'taki pek çok alanda yani özellikle 1/3'ünü neredeyse hakimiyet altına almasından sonra tabii Irak'taki dengeler de değişmeye başladı. Bir kere her şeyden önce IŞİD Irak'ta kontrol sağlamış oldu ve IŞİD Irak'ta kontrol sağlamasıyla beraber dengelerin değişmeye başladığını görüyoruz. Ancak IŞİD öncesinde de özellikle 2010'dan sonra yani Irak'taki Maliki hükümetinin ikinci döneminden sonra Irak'taki
After the second era of Maliki government in Iraq, there have been some changes in the internal policies and internal structures. In Iraq, Sunni people were not able to be integrated into the new system, and after 2010, there were some problems. Maliki was trying to have a monopoly about their ruling, and actually there were some results of this acts of Maliki, and Sunni people were excluded from the political process. And of course, there have been some changes for the Shia people because Nuri al-Maliki had different policies. It was not just for the Sunnis to be excluded from the political processes. Similarly, there are some groups which are excluded too. Amar al-Hakim, for example. Those Shia politicians are also were also excluded, and there was some reaction from those groups. And in the 2014 elections, we had seen the repercussions of these changes. Up until 2014 elections, Shia political groups were acting together, but in the 2014, we understood that there was a separation, and in this large Shia group, we saw that they were not able to have such a large group, Shia group. And there is a separation among the Shia groups and parties. On Shia, there is a separation too. We can see that, and people think that the Iran effect should be weakened in Iraq, and there are Arabic nationalists, and there are some reactions. So there is a political crisis which is deepening each and every day. But before getting to ISIS issue, between Erbil and Baghdad, there was also a problem. And now we can say that the relations are already over between Erbil and Baghdad. There had been an agreement signed, but we cannot say that they solved the problem about these relations. Erbil-Baghdad relations are also affecting the political crisis in Iraq. In 2014 June, the region had experienced a change in the equation. ISIS came into the region, and this led the crisis to get deeper and deeper. And in 2014 June, when ISIS is there, they started to make a search for the government. But in April they had elections, but they can have a government in August, and they have this government under extraordinary conditions. Yes, the government was established under the occupation of ISIS. There were some developments, but still we can see that the problem is still getting deepening, and the government is not able to work effectively. Sunni people are excluded, as I mentioned, excluded from the political processes, and their political demands are not being met by the central government. And I think Sunni people are supporting ISIS as an alternative, because ISIS was not there only in 2014 and 2015. There are backgrounds for ISIS. This starts in 2000s. Actually, after 2000s, they call themselves with different names, and sometimes they have some problems with Baghdad. Sunni people are using ISIS. Some of them are supporting Al-Qaeda. Starting from 2007, the United States changed its strategy in Iraq, and they started to have a political process, and they established Safa, and they transferred this to central government. And Safa, and then the central government tries to eliminate the Safa, so Sunni people feels excluded again from the political processes. So they have to do something in the shadows. In 2014, I believe they have established a background for this, but there was a difference in 2014 government. Maliki has supporters in and Maliki policies affected those people who started to support ISIS. But Maliki would like to wanted to be wanted to have a third time as the government leader, and Iraqi people did not support that, and US was also rejecting that, and people wanted to have moderate leaders who have better relations with the Western countries, who is supported by the United States. Haider el-Abadi is the candidate. He is coming from the same school with Maliki actually, but he is much more moderate. He became the prime minister of Iraq. When he became prime minister, the conditions were really hard. We are talking about extraordinary situations. First of all, there was the ISIS, Islamic State, and there was a problem about the economy. Economic problems are actually one of the most important reasons for the problems which prevail and which are not being resolved. Iraqi economy is totally dependent on oil, and this is hindering the economic development for Iraq. And there are problems with Erbil. There is the Syria issue. Iraq is directly affected by the situations in Syria, and when we look at the ISIS situation, we can say that Iraq cannot fight against ISIS by itself. This was the case. We have seen that, and Iran was the first side to take a stance, and they tried to increase their effect on Iraq, and diversification of the actors has also affected Iraq, and ISIS changed the political structure in Iraq. The actors in Iraq was different. There was an actor diversification in Iraq. These are all equations actually in the in the elections. They are thinking about all these different actors. For example, they said that 6 MP will be for Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and 3 MP is for Ministry of Interiors. All these things are affected by the increase in the number of the actors. After ISIS process, Iran's effect increased, and with this effect, I'm not just talking about the political effect. We know that the military existence of Iran is also effective, especially after ISIS process. Shia militia became activated, and this caused another problem for Iraq. When this political crisis deepened, we understood that ISIS has a certain position, sectarianist position, and there was a reaction towards the sectarianist position of ISIS, and they had a sectarianist reaction in return from Iraq. You know, that one third of the territories are occupied by ISIS. There was a fatwa which is broadcasted, published, and they created an army, Hajj al-Shabi, which was created by the voluntary people, and they started to fight against ISIS. Hajj al-Shabi, with the establishment of Hajj al-Shabi, by the way, I would like to underline something else. Hajj al-Shabi was established with the sign of Maliki. He was the prime minister then, and Hajj al-Shabi is the main actor in ISIS, in fighting against ISIS activities in Iraq. In Mosul, in Tikrit, in Diyala, they were not very successful, but with the establishment of Hajj al-Shabi, Shia militia activated again, and there is the Ruf al-Sahar region, and they tried to protect the Sahara, and they tried to occupy the Tikrit. They became very active in different parts of Iraq, and they have a certain sympathy towards, the people have a certain sympathy towards Hajj Shabi. They think that this is an army for liberation. there are different groups in Hashd al-Shaabi, and this Hashd al-Shaabi changed the balance in Iraq. Hashd al-Shaabi is connected to Iraqi central government, and within Hashd al-Shaabi there are more than 50 militia structures, and this causes to change. This changes the political structure in Iraq, and the central government's position was changed as a result of all these changes. When we come to Bashika crisis, we can see that all these changes, all these structures were effective. We are talking about different actors. We're talking about Iran and other actors, other groups. Turkey has been acting. Has Turkey had a camp in Bashika for 1.5 years, and Turkey was doing the same thing for a long time. But now they are reacting to Turkey. Turkey's position will be talked, will be discussed. When Abadi became prime minister, Turkey government was the first government to congratulate him. Actually, we would like to increase our relations with Iraq. As soon as Abadi government was established, Turkey helped, as far as I remember. There is a time period when the relations were getting better. There was a visit from Abadi to Turkey, and actually we can talk about the improved relations with Turkey, but there is the Russia issue, and Russia is now included into the equation, and Syria, and now there is a connection with Iraq too. As far as I remember, by the end of September, Russia became very active in Syria, and right after that, we had some cooperation between Syria and Iran, and they created a coordination unit. Actually, there is the effect of Iran and Russia. Russia is now very active in Syria, and Russia would like to be very active in Iraq too. And in Syria policy, Turkey, Russia, and Iran is now face to face, and we have problems. I would like to underline that the effectiveness of Iran in Iraq is problematic actually, and Maliki is trying to take its position back, because what Abadi is doing in the last 1 year is actually criticized, and Iran is not contented with these policies. Abadi has a Baghdad-centered policy, and he wanted to improve the relations with Western countries and Turkey, but Iran was quite effective, and Hashd al-Shaabi was also effective, and because of all these things, I believe that Iran is trying to have a certain control with the help of Hashd al-Shaabi. So I believe that between Iran and central government, it looks like they have a cooperation, but I believe that there is a deepening crisis. Right now, we have operations against ISIS, and Iraqi army and Hashd al-Shaabi is not fighting together. Ramadi is one of the most important examples of this. There is a war in Ramadi, and in Ramadi they are fighting against ISIS, and Ramadi is one of the most important parts of ISIS, and Iraqi army is right now there in this place, and Hashd al-Shaabi is not taking places in Ramadi. For this reason, there is a structural transformation in Iraq, within Iraq, and there is a reaction to this transformation. For this reason, I would like to say that the equation changed in Iraq is really effective in today's situations, in today's crisis. And this created a reaction towards Turkey. I believe that Abadi is trying to keep his position, and in order for him to keep this position, I believe he will be blinking an eye to Iran, and he would like to react to Turkey. When we look at the Iraqi central government approach, I believe that this problem can be solved too. Sistani
Üst meselesinden o da işte Başıka'daki kamp meselesinden sonra açıklamasını
and Sistani had an explanation about this Bashika camp site, and
en önemli noktalarından bir
but
tanesi.
there is a reason for this. Sistani explanation was really important. He is the one of he said that, and he is one of the most important people. He said that no power can hinder the sovereignty of the Iraq. I think this is not just a message for Turkey. I believe this message was also for Najaf and other regions, other actors. They're trying to protect themselves. There is the fight against ISIS in Iraq, and Abadi can have some problems. Hashishabi is supported by the people nowadays, but Iraq's central government does not have the total control on Hashishabi. Hashishabi is a military organization, but still it is politically effective too. For this reason, the crisis in Iraq is related to Iraqi internal policy, and I believe we need to think about the crisis in this way. I would like to finish my presentation right now. If you have questions, I would like to answer. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you, Bilgay. We can have an applause in the end when all the presentations were over. It is really important to talk about internal policy. You talked about Sistani, and you said that this message was not just for Turkey. Actually, this was a message for Iran too. We know that, and many people think like this, and many people said that it is like that. Maybe in the question and answer session, we would be talking about why all these messages turned into reactions only for Turkey. Why there is something like this? Now let's hear Turkey's perspective. How important the crisis is for Turkey. What kind of steps we can take, what kind of roadmap we can adopt. We will hear this from Mr. Mesut Özcan. He is the head of Diplomacy Academy, and please, I would like to say that you have only 15 minutes. I would like to say something there. I am talking here as an academician. I'm not saying on behalf of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. First of all, I would like to explain that. I would like to talk about those things which are mentioned by Mr. Bilgay, and then I will try to build upon that. You know, this is generally related to the security situations and general discussions in Iraq. Actually, we are talking about a discussion related to Turkey's training activities, and this started in June, actually, last year, June, and ISIS became very effective, and they started to go towards Baghdad, and this meant that there was a very important security gap. And Iraq was not a functioning country, functioning state, and they were not able to provide a security for themselves. There was a duty which should be carried out by other actors, and in this regard, we started to talk about Hajj al-Shabi, and they started to take some precautions to solve this problem because they needed a functioning army. There were some military aids, and they tried to strengthen those groups. And we know that Iraqi army was about to get rebuilt, and apart from the army, there were some other militia groups and other armed groups, and they turned into very effective military and political forces. They have different responsibilities, and they have different functions, and we have seen this in Iraq in all the cases. And these today we have a crisis, and all these things should be taken into account when we are discussing about this crisis. We talk about the situation in Iraq. Iraq is trying to have contact with different actors, and their engagement with Iraqi Kurdish people was increased. We can see that starting from 2009, they started with Maliki, and we had some problems. Abadi government was established after 2014, and we preferred to have such a leader. And we had some contacts after that, after the establishment of the government, but those discussions is actually something else. The government is not able to. I would like to explain this explicitly. Iraq has many different problems. They're not able to control most of their country, and there are different problems between Kurdish part and Baghdad. There are some problems about the authorities and the financing issues, and there is a reform plan explained by Al-Badi, and there are very basic problems of society, but they are not able to solve these problems. There are many important problems for providing basic services like electricity, like healthcare services. So these political groups are not able to solve these problems, public problems, and they try to have a political security system. Turkey is sending these troops to those places. Actually, it can be understood because there's such a situation in Iraq. I believe that this topic is exaggerated in media, by media. I believe this is the reason. Maybe you can remember that days. The number of the troops were exaggerated to begin with, and people thought that there is a large mobilization, military mobilization in this region, and there was a certain reaction from the people. And I believe that this is because of the situation in which Iraq is in right now, and the media was effective, and all these aspects came together and resulted in this crisis. I would like to talk about the Turkey's policies about this Iraqi situation. Iraq has always been important for the security. This was also the case for 1990s and 2000s, especially the Iraqi policy for Turkey in 1990s was generally for security. In 2003, of course, there were some internal problems within Iraq, and this was also a concern for security in Turkey. And security has always been an important part of the relations, but economic relations was also important. It also shaped the relations between Baghdad and Turkey. Iraq was one of the largest economic partners following Germany for Turkey. And there were some ups and downs, there were some fluctuations when we have political crisis, but Iraq is important partner for Turkey on economic terms too. And when we think about all these dimensions, the developments, the changes in Iraq are really important for Turkey. Turkey is focusing on those changes, Turkey is monitoring on those activities, and for Turkey, it is really important to solve these problems related to security. ISIS is quite effective right now, and we would like to decrease the threat for Turkey's security. We try to provide training because we would like this problem to be solved right then and there. ISIS should be taken out from Mosul. There are conflicts in every places, but the largest fight will be in Mosul. The people think that, and people are thinking, who will be fighting there? There will be Mosul forces, Sunni forces. Maybe Peshmerga can take a role in that. People are discussing about this. Iraqi National Army, Hashishabi, can take some roles because Mosul people does not want Hashishabi to take responsibility there. And this is a discussion. There is not a reconciliation. There is not a mutual understanding in Iraq about this. And the training support has been going on for more than a year, actually. This discussion for Mosul and the fight which will take in Mosul is being discussed for many months. And we know that there are some actors who doesn't want Turkey to take place in there. And actually, these are also effective for this crisis because these actors would like to limit the effect of Turkey in this region. On the other hand, in Iraq, there are many important problems related to security in Iraq, and in the long term, I don't believe we will be talking about a long-term planning or policy for Iraq. Because of the security issues, there are no investments, and there was also a decrease in the oil prices, and this means economic problem for Iraq. And there is also a really important corruption discussion. Abadi government came to power, and Sistani and other leaders made some explanations, and people say that corruption is one of the most important problems which should be prevented, and the income of the government should be spent for the basic services. They always say that. We all know that in Iraq we don't have a military capacity which can fight against ISIS. We are talking about such huge problems, and there is a security problem, and there is the economic problems, and there are some problems about the political reconciliation and mutual understanding. And when there is such a situation, they try to create a national sovereignty situation and bring people together. So I believe this was also effective in the creation of this crisis. Sistani is a religious leader, and we can understand that they want to limit the activities of Turkey, but we can say that they're not using a very harsh language because they would like to have relations to continue with Turkey. There were some discussions, there were some meetings in United Nations. For example, there have been meetings, and United Nations also discussed this issue. And the tension of this is a little bit decreased, we can say that. And as long as the security situation in Iraq goes on, as long as these problems prevail there, I believe that these kind of discussions will be experienced from time to time, because the conditions in which Iraq is right now are quite problematic. There is a list of reforms by Abadi, but people are not very contented with that, satisfied with that. Maliki is trying to get back, as far as we know, and as mentioned by Big Guy, between Iran, Syria, and Iraq, there is a convergence, and there are different opinions in Baghdad and in Erbil. Turkey is trying to have a certain security guarantee, and Turkey will try to protect their own interests, and the other countries will try to protect their own interests. And they will, I believe that there should be a mutual understanding to solve these problems, because in Iraq there is a crisis. It is not easy to have a mutual understanding. There are different understandings in Iraq. They have different types of dreams for the future of the country, for the future of Iraq, and for this reason, I believe the steps to be taken are really important, and the improvements will be sometimes different, sometimes surprising, but this is actually a topic of national sovereignty. They are using this as a tool because they are looking like they're protecting the interest of the country. And as a result, now we can say that the tension is now decreased. But as I mentioned before, because of the conditions of Iraq, from time to time, we will be talking about these security issues, and we will be having some discussions. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Teşekkür ediyorum Mesut. Daha vaktin var mı?
Thank you,
Eğer
Mesut.
ekleyeceğim bir şey varsa. Tamam.
If there is anything you would like to ask, you can use your time because you didn't finish your time. Okay, then let's continue and give the floor to our third speaker, Mr. İlnur. We will be talking about the northern Iraq because there is a Baghdad government and there is the northern Iraq, and this found its place also in the constitution of Iraq. And let's hear the situation from Mr. İlnur. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I would like to welcome you all. When we say northern Iraq, yes, we were using this term. KRG was taboo for us, and we were always using northern Iraq. We never used this KRG abbreviation. Since 1980s, I've been working on northern Iraq. Barzani sent his ambassadors to Turkey, and Cengiz Çandar and me and I were quite effective in the meetings by Turgut Özal, and I was on all those meetings. When we came to current situation, I would like to say something about my experience. Maybe it is really necessary for looking at the history. In 1996, Barzani and Talabani were not going along well. He was one of them was in the region Süleymaniye, and other one was in Dohuk region. There was a conflict between those two, Barzani and Talabani, and then Ankara stepped in, and we tried to create a reconciliation between them. In 1996, we had a peace meeting in Boulevard Palace Hotel, and Ankara agreement was signed. But I would like to explain how such a thing happened. KYB attacked Barzani by PKK. They attacked Barzani, and Barzani requested help from Turkey. Turkey sent F-16 jets and tanks and troops. Barzani was about to collapse, and Turkey saved Barzani. Barzani did not forget this. But there was always fluctuations between Turkey and Barzani. There was an upwards movement back then. What happened with the help of this agreement? You have Turkish forces in Bashika. Actually, these Turkish forces were deployed there in 1997. It is a Turkish regiment. There is 1,500 soldiers. This was an old airport called Bamerni, and since 1997, the people are there. The Turkish soldiers are there, and there are appointments each year from Turkish armed forces. So people start to say that Turkish people came and they stayed, they did not leave. And in 1996, there was an agreement, as I mentioned before, and Turkey created a buffer zone. This was a peace force consisting of Assyrians and Turkmen people, and commanders were Turkish people. We had 20 officers there, and they stayed there for years. Barzani and Talabani came together then, and they were living peacefully in their separate areas. But before Saddam's collapse, there was a very large meeting in Selahattin with United States. Shia groups, all the opposing groups were there, and those groups gathered together, and Barzani and Talabani signed a peace agreement, and they decided maybe they can have a common government, because the United States told that if you don't come together, you will not be taken seriously on the world stage. They decided to come together, and when Saddam was collapsed, there was such a unification study, but now there are some problems about this unification ideas. In 2 years ago, as far as I remember, if I'm correct, they wanted the help of Turkey about ISIS, and Turkey used this 1,500 soldiers in Bamerni. They were sent to 3 different regions. 2 of them are in the Kurdish region. They are training Peshmerga, and one of them is in Bashika. And in this region, they are training Iraqi militia and Iraqi policemen. And these Turkish troops started to be used as training groups, and it is still going on like this. And Turkey is now surprised because Abadi suddenly said that why are those troops are here? You wanted them to be there. And Mr. Feridun Sinirlioğlu, our foreign minister, went to Erbil, and he had a meeting with Barzani. Barzani wanted Turkey to reinforce those forces of Turkey in this region, and he wanted that Turkey should reinforce those forces with new troops. Turkey did what he wanted. Turkey sent troops to this region, as mentioned by our previous speakers. Hürriyet newspaper especially is trying to turn this into something else, as if Turkey is sending occupation forces to Iraq. This was an actually operation for perception. Al-Badi was ready to do something like this, and they defined Turkey as an occupying country. Barzani has many important problems right now. One of the most important allies for Barzani is Turkey and the United States. The United States always supported Barzani, and he still supports. But the most important problem for Barzani is actually with Baghdad government. The main problem for him with Baghdad government is this administrative structure and money. Baghdad government is sending 17% of the oil income to the Kurdish people. Actually, they have to send this, but they're not sending that. And they are delaying this. Sometimes the money is coming, sometimes it is not. Sometimes it doesn't come for 3 or 4 months. But where does this money go? And this is something really interesting. In the northern Iraq, in the Kurdish area, there is no industry, there is no agriculture. The working population, 75% of the working population has turned into civil servants because they would like to satisfy the people. They would like to give jobs to those people. So 75% of the working population is civil servants, and the budget, 86% of their budget is going to pay these salaries of these civil servants. The money coming from Baghdad is paying these salaries, but when the money is not coming, there is a disturbance in the region. There is no investment, and yes, we are talking about oil. Yes, it will be precious if it is. If they were able to take this out and they were able to sell this, because there are some problems. People, there are problems about the oil prices too. So Kurdish people are not able to have an income from the oil too. So there is also Iran, Russia, Axis, and Turkey. There is also another group, Turkey, America, and Barzani. Axis. Barzani has its own problems. One of the most important problems related to him is about the fact that they were acting together with Talabani's party, but nowadays there is a Goran movement which took its grounds from Talabani's party. Norshirjan Mustafa is the leader. He was the second founder of KYB, the party of Talabani. He established the Goran movement. He said that there are huge corruption issues. I will not be a part of the Talabani party and Talabani administration. So Goran movement started in this way in Süleymaniye region, and they are effective in the politics. And the problem here is like that. For example, people were thinking about Barzani as a president again, but Goran movement prevented that. Goran is blocking this for Barzani, and as I mentioned, in Süleymaniye, Goran is strong, and they are attacking the buildings of the KDP, and KDP people had a fight with Goran movement. So there is such a problem too. Talabani is sick, and he is in Süleymaniye right now, and he is not able to continue his relations with Barzani, and this created a disorganization in KYB, and these are all affecting each other. So there is a problematic structure. The support from Turkey is actually remedy for Barzani. It's like a medication to Barzani, because for them this was really important. The Kurdish flag was used in the airport, and they were really happy. Even if you gave them $1 billion to them, they wouldn't be as happy as that. When I called Erbil the next day, they said that there is a festival spirit right now here in Erbil. They used our flag. It was an incredible meeting. We had quite warm discussions. They were really happy. He said that Turkish people embraced me, and they are providing the support that I need. Because there is the really important problems, and one of the most important problem is PKK. Actually, it is as big as a problem of ISIS. Actually, even if Turkey did not support Erbil, which have been lost, Kirkuk would be in the hands of the ISIS. But Turkey supported actively, and the United States supported actively. This was a reason to breathe calmly for Barzani, but ISIS is still a threat. We have seen how right Turkey is in Bashika. Turkey retreat its soldiers a little bit, and ISIS attacked that region, and we understood that Turkey was actually right, and I believe that Turkey should share this with the world public, world people. And there is also another problem, as I mentioned before, PKK. PKK deployed there many years ago, and they attacked villages of Barzani, and they killed supporters of Barzani. PKK is like this all the time. There is an intimidating policy when they go to a new place, and PKK make sure that people are dependent on PKK. In 1990s, Barzani, together with Turkey, had 27 operations on those Kandil mountains, but none of those assaults, attacks were successful. And Barzani told me something once. We lost 3,000 people to make these operations. 3,000 Peshmerga died when we are trying to support Turkey in its fight against PKK. We always talked about something. Yes, people were saying that Turkey would like to have operations, and Barzani didn't want to have these operations. But years later, Barzani was explaining that we had 27 operations, we lost 3,000 people, but we didn't take any important steps. PKK is still there. There is no use in making military operations. Maybe you can solve this within Turkey, and we can solve this in this region too. And he repeated that when he came again. The most important problem for Barzani is not the PKK on the mountain. PKK is looking like they're fighting against ISIS. And most of the people from PKK go to northern Iraq, and some of them go to northern Syria, and they're fighting together with the PYD. There is about 500,000 Syrian Kurdish people. PYD is now deployed there, and PKK is now deployed there, even though they're only constituting the 10% of the population as the Syrian Kurdish people. In Sinjar region, they also deployed. Sinjar is taken back, and Barzani told me, and Turkish officials also know about this. And the people I know also confirmed that Barzani powers, Peshmerga powers, was successful because of the training they took from Turkey. And they were able to fight against Daesh in Sinjar with the help of those training. And the Peshmerga commanders is saying that we had taken trainings from different countries, from US, from Germany, from other countries, but the Turkish training is really different, and they say that we need to work together with Turkish people in training issues. And Barzani said that, I would like to thank you very much because you were effective in the solving of this problem about Sinjar. But PKK is now in Sinjar, and Peshmerga Barzani is saying that in order to save Kobani, we helped Kurdish people, we helped PYD, PKK. And Turkey was also supporting, and we got rid of them. And Peshmerga got back to northern Iraq. But they were deployed in Sinjar, and they're not getting out of Sinjar. This shows ill will. And there is such a problem about PKK for Barzani. So Barzani is fighting in different fronts. And Turkey is a helping hand for Turkey right now. And in northern Iraq, this is the case. Unfortunately, there are some economic problems, and Barzani is trying to take some steps with the help of Turkey, but there are some domestic problems for him too. What can Turkey do in this regard? I have been trying to state this to our officials, government officials. Barzani should have a certain relation with KYB and Goran, and because Iran is manipulating Goran right now. I repeated that for many times, but I was not able to take the necessary steps. We need to have close relations, and Turkey has supported territorial unification of Iraq. We need to do this for northern Iraq too, because in those regions PKK is not just effective in northern Syria, and it is also trying to be another alternative for the northern Iraq. And they say that Barzani has some corruption problems, and they say that we are an alternative. This is the case in northern Iraq. Thank you very much for your attention.
Teşekkürler Uğur Bey. Kuzey Irak'taki farklı aktörler aralarındaki çekişme.
You talked about different actors in northern Iraq, and Turkey stands towards those actors. And I think these are all effective in the current crisis. And maybe we can talk about this during the question and answer part. We will hear the final speaker, Can Acun from SETA. He will be talking about what is the stance of Daesh and what is the position of Daesh in all these discussions and crises. Thank you very much. I'm the final speaker, and I'm a little bit disadvantaged as the final speaker because all the issues I would like to focus has already been discussed, and I don't want to have a repetitive discussion, repetitive presentation. There are many different factors which define the relations between Turkey and Iraq. There are some different relations, economic relations. There are some relative groups for Turkey. These are really important for Turkey, and the security parameters are also really important. After the occupation by the United States in 2003, security was another issue, important issue, and PKK and YPG elements were also important because the terrorists and terrorism import to Turkey possibility is increased. Barzani is also important. Iran is now one of the most important actors. We are talking about Goran, PKK, and all these situations are really important. But I will be focusing on Daesh. The basic issue here between Baghdad and Ankara and Tehran maybe is because of the sociological background which created Daesh. And there are different positions for the fight against Daesh, and this is actually one of the reasons of this crisis. Turkey is now at a different position when compared with the Baghdad and Tehran, so this is creating a certain tension about the relations. There are some basic reasons for this phenomena. Yes, the 2003 occupation was effective, but when we look at the historical background, we can see that the Afghanistan occupation by Russia was really important. The global jihadist approach was also effective. We had the Chechnya war, and in 2003, United States occupied Iraq, and this was actually a response to this occupation. And yes, in 2003, U.S. occupied and collapsed the army and collapsed the bus system, and there was a certain reaction in the society. Shia people and the Kurdish people were taking part together with the occupation by the Sunni people so that they were not able to have a certain place in the new system. And Al Qaeda would like to take the opportunity there, and most of the theologians are thinking about that. And there is a large ground for such an understanding, and they started to take their place in the region. And they went to Iraq in 2003, and they established an organization called Jihad. And in this time period, this was one of the organizations in the region. And in 2004 protests, they worked together with Al Qaeda, and most of these people were experienced and fight in different parts of the world. And this was a difference in this organization. They become very strong in a very short time, and there was a council established, and they included all different organizations. This was their strategy, and the United States did have a certain policy. And Sunni people were excluded from the system, and these were all effective in the establishment of such a sectarian balance. And they designed a new Baghdad management administration, and Sunni people were not included into this system. This created a certain gap, and those people started to use this gap. Sunni people boycotted the elections in Iraq. They think that they are excluded from the society, from the system, and Shia militia forces was important. They were designed by Iran in most of the cases. Qasem Soleimani was effective, and proxy wars, we call it proxy wars actually. And after the US occupation in Iraq, they started to get stronger, and each and every day they became stronger. And this also created alienation of the Sunni people. And to react to that, they created Al-Qaeda and other rebellion groups. And United States had a strategy towards this. David Petraeus was the commander of the region back then. Safa strategy was established. The main strategy there was to include Sunni people into the new system of Iraq, and by using a force by Arabic tribes, they would like to fight against Al Qaeda. In Ramadi Fallujah provinces, Al Qaeda was important, but this strategy was successful. Al Qaeda became marginalized, and the Safa troops gained grounds, and Sunni people started to be integrated into the political system. And this process marginalized the Al Qaeda, and their control structure was collapsed. In 2011, by using the opportunity of such success, the United States took out of Iraq with the Obama policy. But in 2010, Maliki won the elections and became the ruling party again. And Maliki turned the retreat of the United States into an opportunity, and he took the leaders of these Safa troops in prison. And there was a certain transformation in Al Qaeda at that time. Ömer al-Baghdadi was the head of Al Qaeda, and he was killed with a military force. Al-Bakr al-Baghdadi is al-Baghdadi is now the leader, and he became leader, and Hacı Bekir was also really important in this regard. Hacı Bekir was in Iraqi army. He was a very intelligent, very important intelligence soldier, officer. Together with Hacı Bekir, there are some elements closer to Baas, and there are some elements closer to Al Qaeda. And Hacı Bekir designed a unification for them, and Hacı Bekir integrated many different officers, Baas officers, to this system. And within this framework, Ömer al-Baghdadi and other people started to lose their lives in the operations, and the structure changed. The structure turned into a structure which is under the control of Baas officers. This should be underlined. Maliki tried to get rid of the Sahwa, and he tried to exclude the Sunni people again. And Baas gathered together with Al Qaeda, and they started to work together. And in Syria, we started to see that there was a civil war possibility in 2011 and 2010, and in Anbar province, for example, in Feluce regions, the Al Qaeda was increased their effectiveness, and in this process, the Arab Spring was also important. This triggered some societal movements and appraisals in different parts of Iraq, and they tried to solve these problems by using violence. In Anbar province and in different parts of Baghdad and Mosul, many people lost their lives. And Iraqi Islamic State took the benefit of these processes, and they called themselves ISIS, and they started to make use of this gap, and they increased their activities. There was a symbiotic structure. There is administration by Maliki, which excludes the people, which excludes the Sunni people, and Sunni people used ISIS as a revenge tool. Actually, these two structures supported and feed each other, and this has started a process which lead the Iraq into today's situation. And Maliki coalition again won the elections, and this meant that Sunni people will not have any future in Iraq. They lost their hopes, and the democratic structure of Baghdad turned into a system which is only supported Shia people, and all the Sunni people were excluded. They boycotted the elections, and they got out of the system. And there was a situation during this process. ISIS at that time, with the leadership of Al-Bakr al-Baghdadi, started to open the structure to different Sunni groups too. There were some groups of Arabic tribes, and they gathered new forces with the help of this new structure, and in just a few days they walked into Mosul, and the other forces were not able to fight against ISIS, and some of the forces even retreated without getting into war, and ISIS forces took over Mosul in a very short time, and Iraq's second largest army was there, and ISIS had taken all these forces, and it just turned into a very large force in just a few days. And offensively, they continued their attacks. They went to Sunni regions. They went to some important parts of the Kirkuk. They obtained the southern parts of Kirkuk, and they and they went to southern parts. And we have seen that the Central Iraqi army was not successful to fight against ISIS. And for the fight against ISIS, they had a fatwa, and Iran was important. Qasem Soleimani was a really important actor, and he became the leader of the Hashd-e-Shaabi forces, and in large provinces, Shia militia started to fight in those regions. And as I said before, there's a symbiotic relation, and this created an element which is supporting ISIS. When Hashd-e-Shaabi is fighting, they are using similar methods when compared with ISIS. And many European and United States human rights organizations reported the situation about Hashd-e-Shaabi, and we know that this is a process which is mutual. This is a symbiotic structure, and I think one of the most important problems about Turkey and Iraq is because of all these dynamics in Iraq. Daesh is not a force which can be only collapsed by the usage of violence and by the usage of forces. The United States had some activities to solve the problem about Al-Qaeda, for example, and this is a similar situation for Turkey. Iran created an axis in Baghdad, and the main framework of this fight should be carried out in a certain way. Sunni militia powers are important here, but the Sunni people should be integrated into Iraqi political system. This can only be done in this way. Maybe we should think about how to solve this issue. You know, this is actually a proxy war. They want to control Iraq, and they want to exclude the other actors from out of the system. And basically, the Bashika crisis happened in this way. They want to exclude Turkey from the equation of Iraq and Syria. When necessary, people say that Turkey has relations with Daesh, but when Turkey is fighting against Daesh, they are trying to alienate Turkey, and they are trying to exclude Turkey from the fight against Daesh. This is actually this policy. I understand. I think my time is up. Thank you. I would like to thank you very much about the timing sensitivities. Maybe we can have 4 questions, and speakers can address to all 4 of the questions. If you have any questions, please make sure that your questions are short and not comments, just short sentences, short questions. Maybe you need to wait for the microphone. Abdullah Tütüncü, Iraq Embassy.
Arkadaşlar burada Sünni Arapları Irak'ta
we have Sunni Arabs in Iraq, and people talk as if There are no Sunni Arabs in the Iraqi administration, and they are all in ISIS. You repeated that Sunni Arabs are excluded from the administration. The president is Sunni. Previously, he was also Sunni. The head of the government, the speaker, is also Sunni. Sunni Arab people are not Daesh. They are fighting against Daesh. And about Daesh, Mr. John told something. What is Hacı Bekir? Is he Abu Bekir Baghdadi or? There are Saddam's pictures in those places still. Actually, 95% of them are Saddamist. They're supporters of Saddam. We cannot call them just Sunni. In the last speech, it was mentioned that how can you explain to the Iraqi people that Turkey is not supporting Daesh? The people, 65% of the people are thinking that Turkey is supporting Daesh. This is an idea which comes from Saudi Arabia because of the Wahhabism. You talked about Bashika, but you didn't say anything whether Turkey will be retreating or not. This is like a declaration from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Bir toparlayalım lütfen. Toparlayalım.
Why they use Turkish flag? Turkey caused the establishment of the Kurdistan in Iraq. Syria is not acknowledging. Turkey is not acknowledging. There are many, many things I would like to ask, but I think I don't have time. We can have other questions. First of all, I'm journalist from Kurdistan 24 channel. Mr. Bilgay, you said that the relations between Erbil and Iraq is weak right now. After Bashika crisis, Barzani came to Turkey. How can we discuss about, how can we understand this? I would like to ask a question to Mr. Mesut. You talked about actors, but you don't know, you don't told us the names of the actors. Mr. Ilnur gave their names to us. Would you like to give the names of these actors? I would like to ask a question to Mr. Bilgay. ISIS has been there for many years. And there is a fight against ISIS, but about fight against ISIS, do you think there is a problem regarding the tactics? Because there was a research about this issue, and this was also published in The Guardian. 30 organizations are supporting ISIS. They are dependent, and 12 organizations are supporting, and 30 organizations are working with them. So maybe we have a different we need a different tactic to fight against ISIS. I would like to give the floor to Mr. Bilgay. I would like to thank Mr. Abdullah for his explanation. Of course, ISIS is not supporting all the Sunni people in Iraq. And we cannot say that all the Sunni people are supporting those people supporting ISIS. They are excluded from policy, I say, because they are left outside the politics. The Sunni people were worried that they will lose the ruling, and they decided to get themselves out of the politics. Actually, until 2005, the people in Iraq were not taking place in Iraq, and Sunni people started to take active place in Iraq. In 2005, there was a meeting, there was an explanation by our foreign ministers, and Turkey supported this Sunni integration. And after 2005, Turkey-Iraq relations started to improve, and the relations with Baghdad established. But in 2010, Maliki became the ruling party again. He tried to have a monopoly, and there was a problem between them. And one of the most important problems related to this was that actually in 2010, Maliki did not won the election. During the election, Iraqi list won the election, and all the parts were included into this list, and it was also representing the Sunni people too. And they won the election in 2010, but they were not able to elect the prime minister, and the Sunni people took themselves a little bit back. And in 2010, the establishment of the government took at least 9 months, so there was a political dispute actually. In 2011, they were in the government, and they had some discussions with Maliki, and they retreated their ministers in 2012. And Maliki did not appoint Sunni minister. He appointed 4 ministers himself. And he delegated some of the ministers. So this is a monopolized structure, and the Sunni people have some problems. And you know, maybe this is a detail, and he is coming from Iraqi embassy. There is the 4th article related to terrorism, and it was not cancelled. And the politicians, for example, Minister of Finance Rafi Sami, Tariq Hashimi, the president, deputy president, vice president, was condemned to death. And they retreated themselves from the political activities, so they focused on the local policies, and they tried to protect and control their own regions. And in Mosul, in Diyala, in Tikrit, they tried to increase their effectiveness. Yes, we are today talking about ISIS. In 2014, there was not ISIS, and in Anbar region, Iraqi government was not able to take place. So I'm not saying that Sunni people are totally supporting ISIS or are totally excluded from the politics, but in one way or another, Sunni people had some problems, and this was also because of the conditions in Iraq, and they were excluded from the political process in Iraq. I'm not just defending the Sunni people in Iraq. There was another question from K24 channel. Turkey visits from Barzani. It was actually planned beforehand, so it just overlapped. It looked like he was the moderator of Bashika, but it was planned beforehand. But this was really important for the relations between Turkey and Baghdad. And before we had Barzani in Turkey, we had this issue, and Barzani became a communication point actually, and regional Kurdish government has continuously communications or contacts with Baghdad, and Barzani is taking different positions. And we look at the axis, Baghdad and KYB. Barzani is quite important when we look at the PYD and PKK. I think they are the same. They are being fed from Kandil, and they received their orders from Kandil, and I believe that PKK is in close cooperation with them. with KDP, the regions are overlapping actually, and the fight between PKK and Barzani, I believe KYB is trying to take some benefit, and they are trying to increase the power of the KYB. And Barzani, for Barzani, PKK is also a factor. Turkey has a certain nice relation with them, and I believe that this will continue in the future. And I also agree with Mr. Elnur. In order to have a policy, have a certain policy, I believe they will also work together with the Süleymaniye region, because this is not just related to the Kurdish region. Kirkuk factor should be taken into account. Turkey is still thinking about Kirkuk, and when we think about the effectiveness of KYB in Kirkuk, I think it is really important. KDP is not effective, KYP is really important. In the final elections, KYB increased their MPs. So, if Turkey is trying to have a solution with Kirkuk and would like to have the support of Turkmen people, we think that we cannot find a solution without the Turkmen people. And KYB was really important in Tuzurmoto, so you cannot work together with KDP. You asked about a tactic related to ISIS. This is a really important topic. This is a really deep issue. We should talk about the social and economic issues, and economic, social, political aspects should be taken into account. We should have strategies related to all of them. ISIS is not just an armed force or armed organization. It is a state-like structure. There are some social rights they're trying to provide. Of course, I would like to say that they're trying to do this in the structure they established. So we should have different tactics, of course. ISIS is not an organization by itself. When ISIS was in Mosul, everyone was thinking that this was a local organization, this was related to Iraq people, this was the idea. Yes, it was like that back then. And when ISIS entered Mosul, it was not such a large force, it was a limited force. But what they did when they get into Mosul, they were trying to control the local people. There was an army there, and they told that let's get together under the ISIS flag, and I will be providing the autonomy in your local region. And now it is really strong. The Mosul people are controlling Mosul right now, and for this reason, Turkey is thinking that the solution will be solved by Mosul people who are living in Mosul. They cannot just think about the military fight against ISIS. Political and social reasons should also be taken into account. Thank you very much. Do you have anything to add, Mr. John? I agree with Daesh framework established by Bilgay. You say that Shia people is creating the 65%, and many people think that Turkey is working together with Daesh, and Syria is another issue, and they are trying to find a reason for this in the outside. And Sinai Peninsula is also important in Libya, in Afghanistan, in Nigeria. They are fighting against Taliban, and Daesh main center is in Iraq. It is an Iraqi organization. When we look at the summit council, when we look at the commander structure, it is managed by Iraqi people, and the main human resources coming from Iraq. So we need to look at Iraq. Yes, you can blame Turkey and Turkmen people, but some people are also blaming United States, but they say that they are bombing, they're helping the bombings and other things, but there are many things people can do in this kind of situations to blame other people, but the sociological structure and background is really important. I tried to talk about this, the sociological background in my presentation. The Sunni people should be included into the system. I'm not just saying this for to say it should be integrated into this. They should be integrated into the system. If Iraq cannot do this, this symbiotic structure will be effective, and the strategy is also sometimes causing people to go towards Daesh. I don't know whether this is being done on purpose or not, but maybe we should stop blaming Turkey, and Baghdad should turn it to itself and try to understand the local dynamics of this issue. Thank you very much.
Bu arada Abdullah Bey
Mr. Abdullah from Iraqi embassy, he said Talabani is Sunni and he is president. If you ask about his identity, he will say that I am Kurdish. He is not a president because he is Sunni. It is because he is Kurdish. Is it possible to have a president of Iraq who is Sunni and Arab? It is not correct to have this kind of discussions. We should not be discussing about this sectarian ideas. But the political system established after 2003 is established in this way, established on the separation, and in the conference in Iraq, the population was, all the population, each population was represented, but I hope that every parts of the society will be represented.
Hem benim kendi şahsi dileğim hem de Türkiye'nin bu yöndeki politikasının en büyük dileğidir diye düşünüyorum ben. Teşekkür ederim.
İlnur Bey?
I will just keep it short.
O bayrak meselesine değindiniz. Başkan.
They're not talking to the microphone.
Başkan o zaman. Benim gönlümün cumhurbaşkanı herhalde doğrusu. Böyle kendi kendime yapıyorum.
Okay. Now,
şimdi efendim orada tabii o törende Irak
in that ceremony we had a Iraqi flag, Turkish flag, and KRG flag. 3 flags were there. Kurdish local, Kurdish regional government was also represented with their flags. Starting 1973, since 1973, I've been working on this. I've been focusing on this issue. And there is a bomb put in the region, actually. I have gone to the region for many years, for many times, even during Saddam administration. The thing is that Western countries created an elite. Since Shia majority was led by Sunni minorities, this is not representing the majority. The same thing applies for Syria, an Alevi minority group led the majority. The regional societies should have solved this problem. Iraqi people should have maybe could have solved this problem by themselves, but the American U.S. occupation was totally wrong.
daha da
And when I got into
ne kadar
that, I
çarpıcı olduğunu gördük.
realized
Çünkü
how problematic
Irak
it was.
işgalinden sonra Amerika tarafından
After Iraqi
maalesef bir ordunun
occupation,
yok
the
edilmesi
army
ki bu biz
was
Türklere de bir derstir. Bir ülkenin ordusu, bir ülkenin polisi lağvedilirse işte
collapsed.
Irak'taki olan
If there is
o.
such a
O
situation
ülkeye
in a country, this will be the
Irak
result. This is a
çok
lesson for
seçkin
all the
insanların
people.
ülkesi.
Iraq was a
Irak
country
çok
of
iyi
very elite
yetişmiş
people. There are many important
akademisyenlerin çok iyi
academicians. There
yetişmiş
were very well educated
uzmanların kendi
academicians,
petrolünü
and they
kendisi
were
çıkaran ve kendisi
able to manage
yönetebilen bir
themselves
ülkeydi.
by
Saddam bir
themselves. Saddam
melek
was
değil.
not was not
Saddam
an angel.
iyi bir
He was not a
insandı.
good
Bakın biliyorum
person
yani
too.
ben yaşadım işin içinde ama
However,
gerçekten bunu Iraklılara bırakıp da eğer orada e, bir değişik bir transformasyon,
if
değişik bir değişim
they had
sağlanabilseydi,
a different
ordular
transformation, they had a
ülkeyi
different
mahvetmeden, bütün
method
yapılarını yok
without
etmeden,
with destructing
eski
all the structures
Bağdat
of the country.
kültürü,
The
medeniyeti
Baghdad
devam
culture,
ederdi. Bu
civilization would
medeniyeti
go on,
çökerttiler.
and they
Şimdi aynı
collapsed
şeyi
this.
eski Şam
And they
medeniyetinde
also did the
çökerttiler.
same thing in
Aynı şeyi
Syria, in
orada da
Damascus
yapıyorlar.
civilization.
Maalesef bu
And
bizlerin kendimiz olayları
since we
çözemediğimiz
were
için
not
Orta
able to
Doğu
solve those
halkları
problems
olarak
by ourselves
dışarıdan
as the
İtalya'dan
Middle Eastern
Rusya'sından,
societies, we
Amerika'sından
imported
ve
support from
işin
Russia,
içine
from
bir
United
de
States, and this was not the way to solve this problem.
bölgeciliği sokup
And
din ve sekteryenizmi
when
sokup
we are talking
mezhepçiliği
about
sokup
sectarianism,
böyle bir olay
this is
çıkıyor
the
ortaya.
result of
Şimdi
all these
bizim
approaches. So
yalnız yetkililer ve etkililer olarak değil de din bazlı da olaya bakmak
we should also think about religion there.
Türkiye bunu yapmaya çalışıyor.
Ulema
Diyaneti
is trying to do this. Ulema is really important. Turkey is trying to do this too. The religious leaders should come together and provide solutions. We need to train our societies about this. I think these things are really important too. Thank you very much.
Başika ile ilgili olarak çok fazla bir şey söylemedim.
About Bashika,
Bir şey söyleyemeyeceğim.
I already told that I will not be saying that whether there will be a retreat or not. Maybe you are disappointed, but I'm not here as a representative of Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Turkey. I'm here as an academician. I believe that these problems will be solved, but Turkey's stance, I try to talk about Turkey's general stance. About the other issue, about actors, I would like to say that I use general terms because I am not able to talk as if I'm just an academician. I have my limitations because I'm coming from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We all know about those actors. We all know about the regional competitions, local actors, because please don't forget that the Nurol companies' workers were abducted and were kidnapped and by Iraqi people. I tried to explain this in my presentation, and Mr. Inert also talked about that. If a state is not able to provide a certain security, there are always new groups which emerge, and there are different connections. They're not receiving their orders from within the Iraq, so these groups have some certain reasons, like political reasons, like financial reasons. They can carry out this kind of actions, and there is a problem in Iraq right now, and when necessary, Turkey is trying to provide military services, military supports, and we are, of course, trying to protect our political interests. So this is a very complex structure, and there are some unwanted situations. And in order to overcome this problem, Turkey has already said that we should have an inclusive administration, and in all administrations and all organizations and institutions, this inclusiveness is really important. If there should be an Iraqi identity, and people should feel that they belong to this identity. One of the most important problems in Iraq is that actually there are really large problems, but the political leaders are not able to provide long-term solutions to those problems. They're just thinking about some sectarian implementations. The problems of the Iraq is not being solved. The politicians are just thinking about the next election and the voters. They're not able to solve this problem, and they're not able to create a certain understanding about the union. And in all parts of Turkey and Baghdad, there are many problems. Even between different regions, there are separations. And in Basra, for example, people say that they don't receive the service they need. So this brings another problem because they don't have a common identity, and new groups, new actors are created as a result of this, and they have short-term agendas and they act
Biz
on
teşekkür
those
ediyoruz.
agendas.
Süremiz resmi olarak doldu ama sizin 2 dakikanızı alacağız.
Officially, our times is
Ve
over.
bir maraton denemesi yapacağız. Malum programın
We will
başlığı
have a
ikinci
marathon
aktörlerin bölgesinde Türkiye-Irak ilişkileri.
trial.
Ben size 3 tane çok hızlı
I will
soru
ask
soracağım ve 30'ar saniye
3
içerisinde
real fast
her
questions,
biri 1 milyon dolarlık soru.
and you
Toplam
will
3
have
milyon
30
dolarlık soruya
seconds.
cevap vermenizi isteyeceğim yine buradan başlayarak. 3 tane aktör. Birincisi İran.
There are three actors. Iran.
Özellikle bu son kriz üzerinden ne yapmaya
What
çalışıyor?
Iran is trying to do this, and where is Russia in this crisis? And the
Üçüncüsü
third
ise
one,
Amerika Birleşik Devletleri'nin özellikle arabulucu olarak bu da gündeme geldiğini.
what is the role of United States in
Irak'taki
Iraq?
özellikle Türkiye-Irak ilişkiler üzerinden taşımaya çalıştığı gündemle. İlgay.
You have 30
saniye.
seconds.
Teşekkür ederim. Yani İran bu anlamda özellikle hem kendi ülkesi
Iran is trying to protect its own country, and they are trying to strengthen their situation. They are trying to be away from ISIS threat. When I talk with Iraq, they think that the Iran effect is very problematic. And in Hashishabi, there are some people
grupları içerisindeki bazı kişiler bile
who are not
İran'ın Irak için kendilerine destek
supporting
vermediğini, İran'ın kendisi için onlara
Iran.
destek verdiğini ve bu tabii
Of
oradaki
course, these are the ideas there.
İran'ın hatta kendisini koruyabilmek
Iran
için
is trying to protect themselves. This is what
yapmaya
Iran
çalışan
is trying to
kendi
do.
pozisyonunu korumak,
Protecting its position, getting away from the ISIS threat.
bence kuvvetlendirmek.
In Russia,
Tamam.
maybe, okay, let's finish your part here and we can continue with Russia. I will talk about Iran's stance. When we look at a historical perspective, we see that after 9/11, there was an uncontrolled assault by United States, and the Afghanistan and Iraq regimes were collapsed, and geopolitical gap was created, and Iran trying to make use of this with all the passion. And the state devices were already designed for proxy wars in Iran and in Lebanon, in Yemen. They tried to create this axis. They have taken the necessary steps, and there was some forces like Turkey in the region and fight against Daesh. The situation in Bashika were also important, and the basic issue is that they try to increase their own effectiveness in the region, and they're trying to design the systems of the countries with the proxy wars. They're trying to exclude other countries from out of the equation. Historical perspective in 30 seconds is not possible, so we can see that. I would like to talk about Russia. Russia has their own economic structural problems. It is about to get collapsed because of the oil prices, decrease in the oil prices. There is a really important situation for Russia. If there is a problem for a country, economical problems for a country, if they were talking about such a large country like Russia, the problems are taken outside, and they try to mask the situation in their countries. So there are some economical problems in Russia, and we are talking about $42 for a barrel of oil price, and there were some sanctions on Russia for Ukraine issues. So the Russian economy is in a great problem. So you export your problems, you create problems in other places, you create issues. You get into Syria, you had a fight with
Irak'da var.
Turkey and Damascus
Olayı
situation.
maskelemek
That's
için
what
son
is
sistemi
been
yapmaya
done by
çalışıyor.
Russia.
Amerika
I would like to talk
ise
about the United
Amerika
States
bugün
too. United States
maalesef
is,
topal ördek bir başkanla.
has a lame duck president,
Bu başkan
and
bu
he
yıl sonunda
will
görevi bitireceği
finish
için
his
şu
working
anda
days at the end of this year. He doesn't
ya
want
da
to do
buna
anything. He doesn't
başkanı
want to
ilan edilmiş.
intervene
Olayı
anything.
şöyle
He is
atlatalım.
just waiting.
Teknik bir
He's
başkan.
not doing
Amerika
anything. United
esasında
States
hiçbir
is
yere
not
kaçmıyor.
intervening in anything right now. The problem is about this. If neocons come to the power, I believe we will see a very different situation.
Teşekkürler. Mesut.
I will talk about America and Iran then. As mentioned by Mr. Ilnur, America is not able to get into the situation, and I would like to say that they have to do something because they are the main reason for this situation in the region, but they are trying to use some other people. They're not able to they're not able to solve this problem. They are supporting the Baghdadi, they're supporting the new government, newly elected government in Iraq, and
Yakın ilişkisinden çok da fazla memnun değil. Daha önceki zamanlarda takip edenler
the oil issue and the other political engagement issues
Kürt bölgesinin bu kadar yakınlaşması.
is also another problem. Now I think that this is the result of all these changes. I would like to talk about Iran's situation. When we look at the activities of Iran in the region, Iran is trying to be effective in the region. They would like to make use of this kind of chaotic environments. They want to have non-state tools in the region.
Önce
Thank you
panelistlerimizin
very much for
konuşmalarına
all the
sabrınız
panelists
için
for your
teşekkür ediyorum.
patience.
Konuşmalardan sonra sakın.
Maybe we can have a round of applause right now for all the panelists. Have a
İyi
nice
günler.
day.